There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. Hello, peculiars. I am so excited for tonight's show that I wore my fancy It's Pride Month shirt. All this. Oh, all this and non-binary too. Okay, now you can say it's me. Ta-da. So I'm really excited to be here because this is a fabulous book. It's peculiar, frankly. It's a wild ride. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy this too. Davey, I know you're excited about it too.
Yes, this was a fantastic look. I mean, inside not only the world of medicine and that residency life and stuff like that, but I mean, man, Anthony's he's pretty honest about his life in this. So it's.
I mean, I am too, but that's because I'm autistic and can't help it. So
yeah, he's come to the right place for that. For
that's true
and honesty. Yeah,
this is true. And we've got some really cool stuff because I know you have something special planned.
And not just the quiz. Oh,
not just the quiz. No, he's got something else, guys. And we have a special drink that tips its hat towards residency hours, actually. So before, without further ado, allow us to introduce our new guest. Anthony, hello.
Hello, everybody.
It's so good to see you here. Yes, and we've got lots of hellos, people. We've got greetings from Denmark. We have, let's see, Sharika's here, and she, I know, I actually pronounce your name wrong every single time, and I apologize for that. But she's actually also in England, I believe, or she's far afield. So there's several people in the same time zone as you because you're in England. Is that right?
Yes, I'm in northern England. I'm in a city called Durham. It's kind of closer to Edinburgh than it is to London. So we've been here for a couple of years.
It's basically the Detroit of the UK, right?
Well, if they should be so lucky to be the Detroit of the
UK. So I'm aiming towards expatriating myself, and I like the north of England too. I'm a big fan of Yorkshire though, so I tend to
yeah, we're not far.
No, we'd be close. I actually did a residency in Stratford-upon-Avon, and I lived for a while in Glasgow, so I get it.
It's pretty good. I've been so pleased, and I'm so glad that we didn't know anything about the north of England when we moved here. We just kind of showed up, and it's been the best. Like I can't say enough great things about living here.
That was awesome. Well, it's funny. I think that that fish out of water kind of way of approaching the world, showing up and not really knowing much about it, is something that appeals to me. Actually, I write fiction too, and in my fictional novel, there's an American who is an expat and is sort of suddenly in a place she's not sure how things work. And like bacon's not really bacon over there.
Yeah, you got to be careful with your bacon. You have to call it streaky bacon if you want bacon like it back home.
Otherwise, you get that weird back bacon. It's like wiggly and
it's real chunky and you just gotta be in the mood for it. You don't want to be surprised by that.
Right. So Sadie says hello and hooray, and you did get you got the ink explosion. That's how we invite our guests. So anyway, this book goes all the places. And I think that one of the things I'm going to encourage our peculiars to do is when you put in a question, please put a Q in the front of it. Just kind of helps me get there. But I know some of our listeners are also familiar with medicine and that side of things. And so it should be really interesting. Leanne says, you say in the book, my friends are weirdos. Well, we say that too. You're in good company. We actually, our tagline is, if you're weird, you're family. So please put your questions in the chat now. There's a little bit of a lag, so it takes a minute for them to get there. Davey's going to go ahead and queue up some announcements, but let me just start off by saying, I feel like you told us why you wrote the book, which is, of course, one of the questions we typically ask. So let me ask it in a different way. Mm-hmm. How did you come to the decision to make it a book that is basically for public consumption? Because, lots of us have a book in us, but not everybody wants, it to be out there in the world. And I know for me, when I write personal things and they go out in the world, it's like it's worse than sending your baby, right? It's sending a little piece of yourself. What really drove you to make that decision?
Yeah, and this is so funny because people close to me, especially my wife, asked me this all through the process. But are you sure? Are you sure you want to send all this stuff out just about you and your life and your thoughts and all this
Yeah.
stuff? And just personally, the sharing of it never really bothered me, because I never really, felt self-conscious about the things I've been through, the things I've done. I'm kind of at peace with a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff. But what really drove me is, who might pick this book up. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Mhm.
Because I of course, read a lot of books, read a lot of memoirs, read a lot of doctor memoirs, and I always felt like when I would read doctor memoirs after having gone through that world, they came across as kind of disingenuous, right? Like,
Yeah, you're like,
it's
"No,
like
it's great."
we're very, very good at like making ourselves look good at the end of
Mhm.
the day. That's very
Right.
important to doctors to be
Sure,
looked up
sure.
to at the end of the day. And I didn't think that helped me in
Mm.
my pursuit and my experience. And I was just like, you know what? Maybe, seeing this journey told in this way will be really helpful to other folks, because I know I can't have been the only person who is feeling these feelings going through this world. And so that's kind of how I decided to put it out into the world, is just, for the person who picks it up,
Yeah.
hasn't been able to figure out the words to describe, kind of the darker places in their
Yeah.
head, um, and that sort of thing. So,
Well, I work in social justice and medical humanities, so
mm,
I am frequently not a friend of the medical systems of which we
yeah,
are part.
uh-huh,
And I often run my mouth off about this, actually. So, I've gone toe to toe with doctors, with systems, with administrators myself, and it's extremely frustrating. And of course, also, you talk a lot about racism towards the end of the book, and just the any isms, right? So there's the way medicine treats women, the way it treats minorities, the way I worked in medical anthropology for a while, and here you have people, say refugees or immigrants, coming to the doctor and being treated as though their experience of their bodies isn't important because it's not Western, all sorts of
yeah,
things. So
yeah,
yeah, we tend to be pretty critical here. And I just think I appreciated getting a view from the inside where you're not betraying anything by being honest, but I think sometimes people act like, well, you don't say bad things about medicine.
yeah. No, you have to, in my opinion. If we can't criticize ourselves, and how can we ever get better? And I think that's why a lot of medicine has not gotten better for so long,
Yeah.
because we police ourselves.
Mhm.
We're in charge of ourselves. The people in medicine, like no one else really is. And if we keep patting ourselves on the back and telling ourselves that everything's fine or nothing really needs to
Yeah.
change, then it's never going to change.
I had medical students who I taught medical students for a while. I had a medical humanities type course that was for medical students, and I had these residency folks, and I'm working with them, and I was asking them questions, and they just weren't answering any of the questions. And I said, look, guys, can we talk about like what's really going on here?
Mm.
And the one girl looked at me and she goes, I haven't had an abstract thought in 4 years. Like, I don't have time to think about, to think deeply. And I was like, I just stopped the class. I was like, are you all feeling that way? Like, and we just ended up having this like weird, touchy feely, like my life is horrible and all I do is memorize things.
Oh yeah. No, it's just, I don't know, man. It is kind of entering into medicine in this capacity, in like the medical school, being a doctor sort of route. It's kind of the perfect storm for kids, post adolescents, who have not dealt with any of their stuff,
Oh yeah.
um, to go ahead and not deal with it even more. And then be told that like even thinking about dealing with it will get you in trouble. Like you are not the priority here. And so you deprioritize yourself. You start coping in really unhealthy ways, And then ultimately, like, there's so many prices you can pay for that.
Yeah.
There's so many flavors of it. And we don't even realize how deep of a price we're paying for it until years, decades down the road sometimes. And it's terrible. And I think, as someone like, I left the world, and I'm doing totally different stuff right now.
Yeah.
But if the world were better structured and took care of itself and its people better, I might still be, practicing in, doing clinical medicine, because there's a lot of it I really loved, but I think, we're missing out on a lot of really good people because we don't know how to take care of each other.
Yeah. Well, I absconded from academe for some similar reasons, so I feel like there's some system problems that we have here.
Mhm.
Well, I've just I see we've got 4 questions in the queue. Let's go to our announcements, and that just gives a little bit more time for questions to matriculate in, and then we'll start going through them. And you guys can jump in with questions at any time. If you're new to us, you want the live part of the chat, not there's one that's like highlights or something, but you want live, and you can kind of see what's going on. And feel free also to ask sort of peripheral questions. I know I know a lot about what medical education is like, but people don't. And so feel free to, if you have queries off that. So, announcements. It's live. You can talk to us in YouTube. And at the top there, you see all of the other ways you can get in touch with us, because we're everywhere in a way that's probably unhealthy. But the best way to get in touch with us is the Peculiar newsletter. So if you are here and you're not on the newsletter, I don't know how you got here, but you should definitely get on the newsletter. It's where I send the links. It's also where the drink recipes go, in addition to Facebook. And you want the drink recipes. Kat is kind of amazing. She comes up with the stuff, man. And it's easy. It's free. You get emails sent to you by link. So please join us. Patreons and VIPs get a little bit of a different sort of thing. And I am going to do a little promo, so to speak. We are, in July, going to have our next VIP event. That's the one with Mary Roach. And Mary Roach is acting as host to Daniel Kraus, who wrote Whale Fall. You may also know him from Shape of Water, where he worked with Del Toro. Really cool show. That one is a VIP only. Super easy to do, though, because Patreon is just $5 a month. And you can be part of that, and we love you for it. You help support the club and pay the bills and keep the lights on, which is great. But book cocktail, this is for you, Anthony. Tony, this is your drink.
I'm so ready.
And we voted on names, and we decided to call it Code Caffeine.
Well done. Excellent.
It is equal parts red ale and dark brew coffee, simple syrup, and 2 ounces of table cream or coconut milk, plus Fireball or cinnamon syrup.
Oh,
yeah. And we were almost going to add also a Red Bull, but we decided we didn't want to get too unhealthy. But so this is like Code Blue, but it's Code Caffeine, and this is the drink for your book.
Well done. Fireball, man, that's taking me back to some special nights in Detroit. I remember them well.
Based on the things you ate and drank in the book, I'm surprised you're here.
Yeah. And listen, I actually know Detroit pretty well.
I'm very lucky, but holy cow. I'm seeing Fireball pop up in a drink, like, whew. I had some spicy evenings with that once upon a time.
Well, this is for you. And so it's all you. Oh, yes. And YouTube channel. If you guys, I know you're here watching on YouTube channel, please give us a like. There's a whole bunch of things we can't do until we hit over 1,000 subscribers for some reason. And we're really close, but we're not quite there. Oh, by the way, Sadie Simmons she's on board with you. Oh my God, for real. I'm
guessing that was in reference to the Fireball.
I think that's in reference to the Fireball.
Yeah,
okay.
Sadie knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Davey, next.
And speaking of liking and subscribing, if you're listening on the podcast feed right now, make sure, go ahead and give us a 5-star review, leave a review, so it helps people find the show, and it helps spread the word. And if you listen on the podcast feed, we do a bonus, Tony. We do the Peculiar Movie Club, and we just released the episode this morning. It was supposed to be last week, but you know how crazy my life is. So our last book was called The Computer's Voice. So in honor of the computer's voice, we had to do the most iconic voice in sci-fi history, HAL 9000 from 2001, A Space Odyssey. So me and my podcasting partner, Darren, who does movies with me, I feel like the way you talk about movies, Tony, we got to have you on.
Yeah.
You got to love the movies, don't you?
I can go in on some movies. I'm totally ready whenever you need me.
Well, what's cool about their podcast is they record that in advance, so you don't have to be here on UK evening time.
Anytime you like, you can jump in and listen to our thoughts. So we always tie back to the themes of the book from that month. So next month for Whale Fall, there's only a few choices we can go with there, and so we went with kind of the most legendary whale in literature history. Wow. So that is coming up next month.
Very nice. Susan Potter says, "Oh, good, I'm not behind on the movie podcast."
No. Me and Darren, right? We might even not give dates anymore. We might just say this is the movie for the month.
Surprise!
That month. I don't know what movie we would have done to tie back to your book. I don't know. I feel like TV is really the home of medical dramas.
Yeah, I guess that's where they mostly are.
Do you have a medical show that most hits home, like it's most true to your experience?
I think if you ask a lot of doctors, I think most of them will say that the closest to real life medical training is actually Scrubs.
I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Not House? You mean House is not true to life?
Yeah, we don't tend to have, crazy, mysterious things that pop up, for 40 minutes every week.
Right.
So we're we're just trying to survive.
Yeah. No, I hear that.
That's good.
Well,
that's good.
I'm gonna start with a question which Susan actually asked, because it's hot. It is hot in lots of places in the US right now. She's in Houston. She's like, "Tell me about the weather in the UK. Is it better? Is it better where you are?"
Oh, Susan, let me tell you something. So I just got here a couple of years ago, and it is nice here. I've been hearing horror stories about how hot and just sticky and smelly everybody is in places all over the States. So it is, they don't use Fahrenheit over here, but I still use it. It's the one thing I can't change in my brain. But it's been, just like 60s, 70s. It's sunnier in Northern England than it is in London. It rains a little bit less, so it's been wonderful. We just walk outside. It's never too hot. But we don't want it to get ever too hot because in Europe they don't really believe in air conditioning. So that's also a thing. So we gotta have fans and air things out.
Yeah, I actually ended up in London in the middle of the heat wave 2 years ago, and that was a whole thing because I was like, the hotels don't even have, like, some of the hotels do not have air conditioning, and I was kind of like calling around like, do you have AC? Because I'm not coming. No, it's great. And the other fun thing about Northern England, I'll be right back checking flights. Susan's like, I'm out of here.
We got room for you, Susan. Just come on over.
The other great thing is that, like, the temperatures don't, like, I have a friend who moved to the United States. He did the opposite thing, Lance. And Lance is like, I didn't have a summer wardrobe and a winter wardrobe. Like, you just have the wardrobe.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same. So yeah. So there's a whole other aspect. He never looks comfortable here in the summer.
Yeah, no, heat wave in Europe, like, it means something very different because they don't have air conditioning. So it could just be 75 degrees, and that could be too hot for most of the country. Just
it's kind of crazy.
They can't
cool
really themselves off.
It's just, whew. So Leanne asks a question, and then I'm going to go back to something that Sadie said. She says, your book presents poetry and song lyrics together with prose that is dialogue forward, a formatted screenplay, song lyrics, and a personal letter. It is, I mean, it was really funny reading some of the reviews where people, like, you could see the reviewers just being like, it's and I thought, because our show is already like this, I'm like, this is perfect. But why the variety? Why did you choose?
Why the variety? Well, I think just there used to be even more variety, but I had to kind of pare it back. It's kind of it was a thematic choice, really. I always knew I wanted to do this because in the end of the day, this is kind of a story about me and my identity. And the biggest part of my identity that I had to come to learn and understand about myself was my identity as an artist. And so, you know, these artistic pursuits and expressing myself in these different ways was always the thing that helped me understand myself and helped me understand the world around me. And it was also a thing that I felt kind of gotten beaten out of me when I entered into medicine, and I was only able to kind of get a grasp of myself again once I embraced those parts of my life. And so you'll kind of notice, even though, you know, there's variety throughout, the more artistic pursuits kind of they increase in frequency as the book goes on. And as I kind of, you know, embrace those parts of myself, I kind of embrace those different, you know, styles and that sort of thing.
No, it makes sense.
And as far as the variety, you said a little dialogue forward, which I think is really fun. But the kind of the framing device I used, the kind of me talking to myself throughout the book, me talking to the voice in my head and kind of having this adversarial, you know, relationship with my brain. I think that was kind of a choice that came a little later in the writing of the book, because I realized that I was kind of alienating. I would be alienating the audience if all they knew was, you know, this narrator whose frame of mind is kind of like fractured and just like not really that likable, you know, for like from the beginning of the book, like going through to the end. And it was like really hard because I was just like, listen, I want to write this from the perspective of me at that time, and show the evolution. But, you know, how do you get people to buy into somebody who sounds like a dick, you know, from the beginning? And so you got to give them a reason to believe that they're going to get better.
You know, I read it like Virgil. You needed a Virgil, right? You're going through the levels of hell, like in Dante's Inferno, and you need this character who's going to be the connecting. And so I actually read a lot of your narrative in my associative brain like Dante's Inferno, and that you were taking us through these different levels. So you know,
that's the first time anybody's ever describe them that way, and I think that's awesome.
It's a good compliment, really. I just want to say one of the comments I popped up here earlier saying I love the variety is Susan. Susan is actually the one who's the artist musician that we'll be hearing today, and so she's with us tonight too. Anthro Girl also made it, yay! And I think we're still missing a couple people who are trying. They're trying to get here. But no, I love that, and I think I personally. So I talk to myself all the time, except that there's more than one voice. So I didn't realize that people didn't have that. Like, I'm a whole team. I'm the Brandy team, actually. Yeah. And we largely get along because otherwise, like, I think I might be diagnosable.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We get on.
When you don't get along, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's okay though. It's okay. Some of them have, like, they have names. It's really funny. I the first time I saw a therapist, and I was sort of describing this, and she was looking at me funny, and I was like, do other people not do this? Is this not a thing? Oh, it's okay, guess not. But I really appreciated it and thought it was a lot of fun. Davey, you were making all kinds of faces.
That's how you get so much done.
It is how I get so much done.
You got a whole team, yeah.
I do. It's like when one of me gets tired, it's like, okay, tapped out. Okay, I'm in. I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's not schizophrenia. It's like it's not even dissociative. It's cheerleading. It's self cheerleading squad.
If you're all on the same team,
we're the Avengers.
That's just, you know, it's just part of being normal. I love it.
It works. It works. Normal, no. Normal, no. Way left of atypical. So
yeah, we just don't have to put you in a special hospital.
Yeah. I'm gonna so Sadie, I wanted to pop in and say this isn't necessarily a comment or a question, it's a comment. She said, I love the vulnerability, the honesty about struggling with anxiety, for instance, because I think God, it's hard to write about yourself. It's hard to write about yourself because the first thing you want to do is be like, they don't need to see that, but you did it. And I think that that's brilliant. I think that's hard. Especially if you're doing it like, spoiler alert, there's a lot of me in my fictional novel, but I'm going, that character does that.
Yeah.
But you're being nonfiction. I think that's incredible.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for appreciating that. That was the point. That's why I did this. And it wasn't easy to be that open about these things, not because I didn't want to be open about anxiety, be open about depression, those sorts of things, but the challenge was finding the vocabulary
right
to talk about those things,
right.
And that's the problem. That's the issue for all of us, really. And so it took me like 7 years to write the book, and I was in various stages of therapy as I was writing the book, and you gotta I would write and then think I was like I had navigated something and like gotten through it, and then I read the book and I'm just like, oh man, there's like some really just biting rage that's coming through that I'm not meaning to come through.
Right.
It's seeping its way onto the page,
seeping through.
I was like, oh God, I haven't dealt yet. I can't send this out. Like I got some more work to do.
Yeah.
And more to learn about myself. And so that process was ongoing. And I was just hoping that I could show, not just the vocabulary, but the different ways that, these feelings, these emotions can manifest themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of folks who don't go through depression don't know that most of it is not, walking around being sad all the time.
Right. It's a whole range of things.
It's a whole range. It's a whole spectrum. Like people who are really depressed can be really fun to be around.
Oh, sure. And functional as well, even, at least part of the time. I just want to mention, so it's like pop-up video around here, and there's been hilarious, wonderful things going on in the chat.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk and read, but I'm missing most
Susan
of them.
Cotter's like, I also think of Brandy as a superhero team. Susan Ballinger's like, I need a team. Antho Girl's like, all I have are these ridiculous split personality versions of myself, and they don't do much cheerleading. They're mostly distracting. And Susan comes back with, I want a sidekick like Davey. So this happens here. Like I said, this is your team, right? Like this is what your book is like, right? There's like a whole narrative going on, and there's pop-ups, and your book would be amazing as like a digital book where you could actually have like bits of video and stuff. Would that not be awesome?
That'd be wonderful, because there's so much stuff kind of on the cutting room floor that I wasn't allowed to include.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But yeah, I'd be with that.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Kind of revive the idea of pop-up video for a generation that may have no idea what we're talking about.
It's like this, guys. By the way, I'm trying to avoid that. Look at how I have this very Clockwork Orange thing going on. Like I've got this streak of light that keeps coming on my face, and I'm trying to stay out of it, and it's not working out. But we are shockingly already at the halfway point in our show, which means it's time for some music, and that's coming today from Susan Wang. And then I have several more questions we're going to get back to, including one about racism and another about I lost it, and another one as well. So music first.
Your attention is great. Your presence is generous. You split into light and dark. As the performance begins, darkness recedes. The eye fractures the light, making life incomprehensible. So you get used to this world, its outline, so you begin to perceive things as you see them. So time appears so darling, mistakes of a bird entering a stream of air. That's how things acquire meaning. That's how music starts. Fall is lost in travelers, rivers reflect in fishermen. Love makes people. 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 Love makes people.
So that is Susan Wang. Are you not blown away?
Are you kidding me? That was amazing.
She is
It's so
amazing. She
beautiful.
is amazing. And she actually made a note here. She said, yes, you talk about the vocabulary from the very first chapter, talking about words for feelings and not being good with words, but being good with words that mask uncomfortable emotions. And that is a deeply impacting and powerful way. Yep, that's the roof. Yes. That roof top I was on for my 2021 book tour, hanging out at the marvelous Susan, who runs the Bushwick Book Club in New York, and it's fantastic. Yes. And I was deeply inspired by Susan actually to start the Peculiar Book Club. And so that's one of the reasons why I love having her on the show. But also, what a performer, what a performance, and her videography is fantastic. And that's, coming out of her reading your book and thinking about the ways in which is that not they did music for my book too, and it's just kind of makes you want to cry, doesn't it?
No, yeah, I'm so humbled. Susan, thank you so much. That was really wonderful. I wanna have that. Can I have that? Can I have a copy of that or something? How does that work? Because it was so beautiful.
It is so beautiful. It will always be on this video, but I'm sure that we can hook you up with something too. And this will be live on YouTube like forever. So did want to get to this question about racism, and I want to add a couple other questions that came up, because then we have a really something special from Davey, and so I don't want to miss that. But Leanne did ask this question, which I think is a really important one, about racism in medicine and dysfunction in the medical culture. So Leanne was like, what about Henrietta Lacks? Because of course, that's another book that kind of gets at this. And we also read The Evening Hero, which was fiction, which talks about, and that is, I believe, a Korean, guys, forgive me if that's not correct, but a Korean character Korean as well. Yeah.
Yeah, big question.
It is a big question.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about my experience of racism in medicine, because there's lots of different facets of it. There's medical racism, like structural medical racism, as it affects patients, in their care, which is very real, has very real, systemic, health consequences for so many people. But one thing that's talked a little bit less about, but thankfully we're starting to talk about it more, is racism within the ranks of the people taking care of you, within, between doctors and amongst them, and how it affects the makeup of the types of doctors that you get to see. Being Black in medicine, means there's just going to be less of you. You're an extreme minority. You go further into certain specialties, you're an even bigger minority. So, when you're getting into being surgeons, there's even less Black people. For me, being an ENT surgeon, the number of ENT surgeons who are Black and practicing in America has not changed in decades, and the percentage is 1% of all ENTs are Black. That's just the number. And so, how do you maintain something like that? With those sorts of numbers, it's not just by accident. There's a reason why. And part of it is the gatekeeping of who gets a chance to get in. That's one thing. But a big part of it is the culture that determines who gets to stay. There's kind of what we call there's a hidden curriculum in medical training that basically means the curriculum of things that you're not told you're supposed to know, but you're supposed to know. And you're penalized for not knowing. And a lot of those things have nothing to do with the science. It has nothing to do with the medicine. It has to do with how you act. It has to do with how you interact with your peers. It has to do with the kind of persona that you put on in the and how acceptable that is to the people around you. Some people are told the answers, that some people are told how to be and how to move, act. And a lot of the times those are white people, and a lot of times white people are really straight white dudes. And for me, I just wasn't told. And I was in this program where there were only 2 of us that got into the program each year, and the other person was a straight white dude. And it just seemed like he just knew where to be. He knew what to do. And I was just like, I have no idea. I feel like I'm making this stuff up. And no one told me. And I would just, get penalized for it in these kind of behind the back kind of secret ways. And, it's that hidden curriculum that makes it so that, even if we increase the pipeline, because I think a lot of people think, increasing the numbers of people who apply to medical school and get into medical school is going to be the big part of the answer. Personally, I don't think that's the biggest part of the answer. The biggest part of the answer is, how do you keep these folks? And how do you adjust the culture to make it welcoming and not just bare knuckle survival? And that's the question that no one seems to have an answer for. I mean, I have an answer for it, but no one really I'll burn it all down. I don't care. But
it's so funny that you say that. So I work for the British Medical Journal at a journal called Medical Humanities, where we're actually doing diversity and inclusion, which the only way to do that is I work for free for like 25 hours a week. There's just no way around it, right? Wow. And of course, when I leave, it all ends. And so they asked me how to fix it, and I was like, well, we could burn it down, and they didn't agree. But and Amanda Johnson was talking about the lack of diversity in medicine negatively affects patients, and Anthro Girl was saying, I work in medical research, and there's a huge push for diversity, but how can you trust research when you can't even trust the doctors will believe them? And then there's someone just mentioned up here that a nurse's friend's textbook talked about how Latino people don't feel pain the same way as white people. It's been Black. They'd say that about Black people as well. And this is like only 10 years old. So these things persist. They persist. And the reason they persist is because a lot of diversity just turns out to be white people talking about brown and Black people rather than actually hearing from brown and Black people. It's like, well, we'll talk about them, and it's, I get very frustrated. So I'm working on a diversity pipeline myself, but you're up against a whole system that measures everything in white and Western.
Yeah, and white and Western, and also, this is kind of one of the conclusions that I came to when thinking about it, and I kind of dig into it in my book, is that you're not going to change anything unless the people in power want it to be changed, right? And they see the value in it changing, and not just inviting diversity, but recognizing that it's not about diversity, it's about power and who has it. And if things are going to change, the people who have the power, whether you want to recognize it or not, have to commit to giving some of it up.
And that also comes in the way of money, because one of the things that I run into a lot, and I see it every single diversity discussion. Yep, it happens everywhere, right? Is that I'll say, okay, in order to make something diverse, in order to do publishing correctly and make it diverse, it requires institutional support. If you don't have institutional support, it requires editorial support. So I spend a lot of my time, I don't get paid for it, lifting up, going to conferences, triaging papers with people prior to submission, like getting them to the place. And that is not supported. And so when I said, look, we could make this for real forever. You just have to like support it. And they were like, well, that's a low priority for us. We just want diverse people. And I'm like, that's a bit like telling a bunch of disabled people you'd like them in your building and then not building ramps. It's, it's like, we'd like you here. Exactly. Shame you can't get in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, I appreciate what you were saying. And it was nice to get this from this side, because I think we know that it negatively affects patients. Don't think about how it affects doctors and training. So that is super legit. It is 7:43, and I want to take, I know this is like a really terrible transition, but I'm going to do it anyway. You were sharing with us that you needed to write these things down, that you didn't have, in a way, you felt like there was no choice. It was this or turn into a crimester working at White Castle or something like that. Well, that has meant a lot to us. We loved that line, and it deeply impacted Davey.
Yeah, so I kind of, I do silly sketches sometimes, but this one I thought, I wonder what that person's journey would be like. So I did a little bit of creative writing, and I wrote the story of the doctor that goes the path that you didn't go. And
the White Castle path?
The White Castle path. And White Castle Vigilante, I believe was what you said in the book. So
White Castle Vigilante, there we go.
So
yes.
I recorded it as a quick audio book. It's a quick short story, and I put some images to it. So here we go.
Fling smack. Fling smack. That's the sound that echoed through George's Burgers at 2 a.m. The run-down Brooklyn restaurant had seen the neighborhood change a lot over the years, but still survived as the only place to get a cheap bite 24 hours a day. It hadn't been Ed's plan to end up here, slinging burgers with his metal spatula on the hot flat-top grill. But when med school didn't exactly work out for him, a guy needed to make some cash to survive. That's what he was doing for the last 2 years since leaving school. Not living, but surviving each night. There was the rush of teenagers around 10 or 11 at night. Then the college kids would stumble in after midnight. Things would get pretty quiet after that. Ed was cooking up a batch of burgers that could cover him when the overnight construction crews, usually road pavers, came in around 4 or 5 a.m. He would flip the burgers into a pan and then set that in a second pan of boiling water he had going next to the grill. At 4 a.m., they didn't care about fresh. They just wanted food fast. And since Ed was the only one working, having 30 burgers ready to go helped a lot. Usually the restaurant was a chill place to work. Ed needed that after the chaos that was medical school. Every now and then you'd get an angry customer or a rowdy group of kids. Most of the angry customers were just taking out their frustrations at life on a 22-year-old burger cook, and he could handle the rowdy teenagers. Once a group of them started shoving each other, something about who cheated who at basketball that night, and Ed had to come out from behind the counter and the bulletproof glass that caged him in every night and set the kids straight. He slapped his metal spatula down on a table, and the loud crash it made brought everyone in the restaurant to attention. That's all it took. One good smack, and order had been restored. Justice served. Ed found himself staring at that spatula, lost in his thoughts, as the burger sizzled next to him. Fwing smack! Fwing smack! He offloaded a few of the cooked burgers into the metal pan as he heard the chime of the door opening behind him. As he turned to see who it was, he said, "Hey, what can I get you?" What he saw was a large man in a ski mask charging at him with a handgun pointed his way. "I want all the cash in the register now!" the gunman demanded. Ed let out a big sigh and wiped his hands on his apron. "This is bulletproof glass, man. Get the hell out of here. I ain't giving you shit." The gunman fired off a shot that ricocheted off the glass and embedded itself somewhere else in the restaurant. "Are you crazy, man?" Ed yelled at him. "I told you this was bulletproof glass." "Still, I want the money," the gunman insisted. "It ain't happening," replied Ed. As if the situation couldn't get any worse, Ed heard the door chime and slide open behind the gunman. A scrawny college kid came wandering in, and the gunman was on him before Ed could give him any kind of warning. The gunman grabbed the kid by the collar and dragged him over to the counter. "Open the fucking door and the register now!" yelled the gunman. Ed heard the urgency, the venom in his voice, could feel the situation about to boil over. Boiling, he thought, looking down to his left where the pan of boiling water waited for some burger patties to keep warm. He knew he would only get one shot at this as he slowly walked towards the counter door and opened it, just allowing the latch to pop open. Taking a step back, he popped the register open with a quick keystroke and then returned to the side of the grill. He could smell the burgers starting to burn as the gunman thrust his foot through the door, flinging it open and dragging the college kid with him through the opening. As the gunman's eyes moved down towards the money in the register, Ed made his move. He felt pain sear through his palms as he grabbed the edges of the pan, but his body was already in motion, and pain wasn't going to slow him down. He raised the pan up and heaved it at the gunman's face. The boiling water covered the man, sending his hands flying up towards his already burning face. The water hit the college kid too, but fuck him, Ed thought. He's the reason the gunman got this far. Ed knew the boiling water would only give him so much time. He next grabbed his spatula and moved low in towards the gunman, raised it up, and fwing smack! Ed brought the blade of the spatula down as hard as he could on the gunman's junk. With the man's arms in the air, he had a clean shot, and based on the color in the gunman's face and his awkward collapse to his knees, Ed had clearly hit his target. As he passed the gunman on his left, he raised up, spun around, and delivered a blow with the spatula to the back of the man's head. Fwing smack! He fell forward with a vicious thump as blood began to stain the back of the ski mask where Ed had struck him. Once again, justice had been served.
Fwing smack, man!
That's the burger vigilante. That's
Oh
what
my
came to mind.
gosh.
He goes on to have a career in burger vigilanteing, I think. Panther Girl says you missed your true calling there, dude.
Oh my gosh, there's so much good spatula in there.
I know,
It
right?
is, yeah. It's
I
swing
super love
smacking. I was trying to come up with a pun for flipping the junk with but I couldn't get it together in time in my head.
I couldn't do White Castle because they boil their burgers. I needed the spatula.
George's Burgers. I love it. Could have been Donnie's Burgers. No, I was deeply see, lots of appreciation for
Thank you.
see this is you get full service creativity on a club like this one.
I'm
and
just
so when
having such a blast. You guys
I read your book, I thought this book is one of ours. I could see it. I can kind of see how it all works out. We are getting close to the end of our evening. Any final questions need to be thrown in now.
You know what? There was a question here that I definitely want to make sure we get to from.
Okay, where was it?
From Leanne. It was about you beatboxing heart murmurs.
Oh yeah, I had that. Oh yeah, we got to. So Leanne says, "Did you really beatbox heart murmurs during your residency? And can we listen to some?"
Oh my god. So the answer is yes. I did do this. I did it during my my interview because I did it during med school at a talent show. We invited our cardiology professor up on stage, and he had just finished teaching us heart murmurs. Okay. And we kind of had one of my friends do the Vanna White thing and say oh, this is gonna be this heart murmur, and then I'd beatbox it into a microphone and see if he could get it correct.
Okay.
And he nailed it. It was the best. But I don't think I can still do. It's been well over 10 years. My beatboxing is probably sloppy at this point, but definitely I barely remember heart murmurs. So I apologize.
That's too good. That's too good though.
Right now.
I love it. It's a good question.
and was from a slightly more awesome time in my life.
Susan Huang asks, are there plans to dramatize, which actually Susan, I had asked him if there was going to be turned into like some sort of video or digital version. Is there a plan to dramatize I Can't Save You in film or TV or in other ways?
Yes, there are those plans. I'm currently working on the television adaptation. Really hoping it becomes a thing. The TV world is just so
I know,
so difficult and takes a million years to do anything. But even just today, I was finishing a latest draft. So I'm hoping that we can bring it to life. It'll be a fictionalized version, so it won't be the autobiographical version.
Yeah,
but hopefully we can make something.
You know what? I'm with you. We're still trying to sell. I have a producer trying to sell Mr. Humble and Dr. Butcher as a screenplay, and it's just everybody's like, yeah, no, wait, yeah, and medical dramas are particularly difficult too. Actually,
yeah.
Susan asks, she I think she might want to get in touch with you. She'd love to have you as a guest on the Bushwick Book Club, which is an amazing place.
If I gotta get back to my roots and do the Bushwick Club in Brooklyn, absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
That sounds wonderful. I'd love to.
It's super great. Okay. We're going to do the quiz, and then I still have 2 more questions in queue. But first, Davey has quizzes for each guest. But don't worry, because you can ask. It's like how you can phone a friend. You can ask the peculiars for help. Okay.
Okay.
This one's going to either be really easy or really difficult. I'm not sure which way this is going to go. But I usually find a little thread in your book and kind of tug on it and pull a quiz out of it. And you seemed pretty hung up on words that aren't words.
Yes.
You kind of had a good rant in there. So this quiz is called Words We Use Irregardless of the Dictionary.
Ooh, yeah.
So my mom's favorite word.
Yeah, this is all about words that aren't words.
Okay.
All right. So, question number 1. Of 3. You've probably heard this relaxed pronunciation contraction of probably many times in your life. What version does show up in the Oxford English Dictionary? So this is recognized by the dictionary. Is it prolly? Is it probs? Or is it babbly? What do you think is the relaxed pronunciation contraction?
Yeah, I think probs is a little too young for the dictionary. I think it's probably.
Yeah, Sadie's with you on that. She says it's A. I really hope it's babbly because that's hilarious. Leanne goes with A as well. You gotta put
babbly into circulation.
I write fiction. I can do that.
All right. The answer is recognized by the Oxford English Dictionary. Yes, it is probably.
Probably. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sadie, Leanne, and Anthro Girl all got that one.
Babbly was my own.
Babbly would have been better.
All right, question number 2.
Sarika thought that was something that she made up. You need to put your pronunciation in there again. I know I just keep messing it up, but I love you though.
If you're telling a story about a time you had to sneak around, you'll probably want to use the correct past tense, which is snuck, sneaked, snucked. Did I say that right? Snuck, sneaked,
snuck,
snucked.
Sneaked or snucked. Oh no,
I mean, I'm just laughing at the Grinch. Is it possible that all 3 of these were used in the Grinch song?
I think it might be.
When you Google image search for sneaking around, you get some really weird things. I was like, who's an iconic sneaker in pop culture? And Grinch. There we go.
I feel like the answer is B. I think it's sneaked.
Sneaked. Sadie hopes it's C.
Snucked.
Leanne and Sarika say A. I think I've said snuck and sneaked, and I don't know which one's right.
I feel like snuck is what study of the English language would tell you it should be. But I feel like
means
because
it must not be, right?
English sucks a lot of the time, I think it is sneak.
Stink,
but,
stink.
yeah, exactly. That's all I'm thinking is stink, stink.
All right. Well, the answer is. It is B.
It is sneaked.
Yes.
Nowhere
in the English language would you ever take the eek sound and change it to an uck in past tense. That doesn't work. But it is hotly debated. Snuck versus sneak.
No eeks for ucks, eh?
Nowhere. This one is hotly debated between snuck and sneak.
Oh no, eek. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking
Eek.
of stick and stuck.
Chicken
There you go.
stuck.
That different
Stick.
rule.
All right, your final
I have
question.
gotten stuck. I have gotten stuck. If you get in enough mud in your car, you are stuck. Actually, it's
Fully
the past tense of stuck.
Oh my
You
god.
can't
Past,
get
past.
You can't get snucked, but you can get snickered. All
That
right.
is also true.
Question number 3. Which of the following words is not approved by Merriam-Webster to describe something massive or huge? Is it A, ginormous, B, humongous, or C, gigantus?
Ginormous sounds like something Trump would say, so I'm going to just automatically veto that one.
Yeah, I worry that ginormous might be one of those that's been put in recently because a lot of people say it. But I mean, it's entirely like
the girl says C.
Gigantus doesn't sound right, but it might be like one of those old obscure words that doesn't get used anymore. Like
true.
It sounds like it could be a word.
Might be.
But I'll say gigantus.
Gigantus. Okay, going with C. A couple people going for C. Sounds good. All right.
The answer.
You guys want to know a funny story? Wait, before you give this, I am strangely so Merriam-Webster gives you example sentences for the words that they have, and a lot of them are me. I don't know why, but I appear in the Merriam-Webster dictionary a lot as Brandy Scalace says in.
Like your full name.
Yeah, it has, as I say in my book of such and such, and then they'll have a sentence that I said in either an article or a So I'm in the Merriam-Webster, which is hilarious to me. I don't know.
Immortalized. That's awesome.
All right. The answer, which one is not approved? The answer is C, gigantus. That is a word that I made up to finish this quiz.
Yeah,
ginormous is an approved
Ginormous is in there.
Yeah.
So when you see that big cruise ship that I have in the photo there, you can
ginormous.
say it's a ginormous boat.
I only went on one cruise, and it wasn't. It was. I was literally coerced. Now that is a claim to fame. I guess it is.
That was another interesting one, trying to find a stock image of what's a giant thing, what actually looks giant in a stock photo, and I could just put a big building in there, but that wasn't fun enough.
That's
that was well done. Oh my gosh, words are my favorite thing. That was the best.
Awesome.
That was great. Okay, so I got to go back up. Someone asked a question. Where did I put it? Oh, no, that isn't it. It was something about Waldo. There's something in here about where's Waldo? Where'd it go?
This is just, can I say, I've never done something like this before, like a book club where people have actually read the book and are referencing it. This is really, really fun. And I just want to thank everybody for checking it out. And it just makes the conversation.
Is it What Happened to Waldo? Is that the guy that got drummed out?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's the question. I can't find it for some reason, but there it is. What happened to Waldo?
What happened to Waldo? So where is Waldo? So Waldo is one of these all-time horror stories in that. So yeah, he got kicked out of my residency program for incompetence and kind of emotional instability. But he managed to worm his way back into medicine. It took him a while. It took him some years, but apparently he's a dermatologist somewhere, creeping around. So I have no idea where, but that's the word on the street. So watch your moles.
It sounds like a lot. Dermatologists aren't getting called to many codes, so.
Yeah, you hope.
But
that's true. My dermatologist, I put all of my dermatologist children through college. Actually, I'm pretty sure.
It's actually a great scene in Scrubs. They need a dermatologist for his money, and he goes, "Code, I need a dermatologist over here," and he's like, "Oh yeah, my time to shine."
That's pretty great.
What about the? I guess you don't want to give away too many personal details of the people in the book, but the girl you were kind of mentoring at the end that was in Waldo's residency class, did she make it?
Yes, she's one of my good friends.
Good.
And she's great. But she made it, and she is actually leaving medicine as well. I've kind of been mentoring her the last couple of years as far as just gaining the confidence to walk away. And she wants to kind of start things over, and she got married. She's moving to Thailand with her partner.
Nice.
And just gonna do just totally new things.
That's great.
But yeah, we're very good friends. She's wonderful.
Excellent.
I completely I mean, I spent many years getting a PhD and then got a job at a tenure track university and then went, nah, I don't do that. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. I, however, am just one of the, I like to blame some things on autism that might just be my personality, but like I just make a decision and I just step off the cliff. I'll build the airplane on the way down. So I left my job and I turned up in Cleveland and I walked into a medical museum and I was like, hey, I've checked out your stuff online and you look like a cool place, but you have no online presence and it really sucks. And so I'll work for you for free for 3 months if you then hire me, because I'll prove myself that I can get you guys all these. And I like improved their numbers by like 900% or something. And so that's how I got in the Dittrick, which is how I met Davey. And then I decided to up and leave that too. So I just walk off, and I'm married to Lady Paws, Finger Guns and Lady Paws, our names. And he was like, you can't just, you can't just, and I was like, already did it. Bye. So yeah.
You can, and it's just like, I mean, just telling doctors that, all those weirdo type A's who have had our lives like prescribed for us since we were in high school, it's really hard to convince them that you can, but you super can. And just life is, God, it's so short, like to spend it doing stuff you don't love, it's a waste. And so, you're never trapped by what you've done before, and it's never going to be a waste. It's going to inform whatever you go on to do in ways you probably can't anticipate. And so just jump,
I think that's an excellent way to end our show tonight, because in many ways, this show is me doing what I like to do, because we don't make any money at this, like at all. But we do it because we love it. And I'm an author, and actually I make precious little money at that too, strangely. But I'm a freelance author and I love it. And I wouldn't do things, at all differently. I'm glad I've left the things. I'm glad I'm on to new adventures. And I hope everybody has the strength and to do that too. So bless you. Thank you for being here. Thank all of you for being here. Thank you, Davey, for all of the wonderful, good things you brought us. And thank you, Susan, for an absolutely amazing song. I will put you two in contact. That was beautiful and brilliant. So again, we are glad that you could join us at a place where, if you're weird, your family.
You got the blue bottle blues when you wake up in the night. Don't make a big mistake, 'cause you can never make it right. When you reach out for the vial, feel the ridges in the glass. It's a matter of survival, baby, better watch your back. There is no